Timing.
Welcome to another episode of the Animals and Aquatics podcast, where we explore fascinating topics related to animal-assisted therapy and aquatic interventions in occupational therapy. In today's episode, we delve into the challenges faced by practitioners in the field, particularly during the transition from being a student to becoming a practitioner. Our guest Carolyn shares her personal experiences and reflects on the difficulties she encountered during this period. She discusses the stark contrast between her academic training and the practical realities she encountered in her work setting. Throughout her journey, she sought guidance and mentoring to navigate these challenges. She shares her experience with mentorship, including discussions with her DIR mentor, who helped her refine her understanding of communication and expand her therapeutic repertoire when working with children on the spectrum. Join us as we delve deeper into these topics and gain valuable insights into the world of animal-assisted therapy in a school setting. It's a journey filled with triumphs, learning opportunities, and the undeniable love and dedication professionals have for their clients. So sit back, relax, and get ready to explore the fascinating world of animal and aquatics and occupational therapy with us. All right, Carolyn, it is great to talk with you again. It's been a while, so
Mhm.
I want to catch up and find out what's been going on since school and field work. And I'm excited. I think this is a perfect way to wrap up Mentoring May because you've went and made that transition from student to clinician.
Mhm.
And I know you have some mentors and some coaches. And so I'm really excited to hear about what you're doing right now. And I know that there are some animals involved. So start me off, catch me up, get me up to date.
Yeah, so when I left school or when I finished school, I got a job at a boarding school, a residential boarding school for kids with autism on all different levels of the spectrum. And we have probably over 80 kids now. They live there full time. There are the options for, some day students that
Mm-hmm.
come and some kids go home on the weekends. But for the most part, it's a year-round facility, a year-round school. They all pretty much go to summer school.
Okay.
And I work as an OT there. And we also have our little animal farm. So we have goats, we have a mini horse, we have a mini donkey, we have chickens, rabbits. And then our transitions office has, what do they have right now? Guinea pigs, parrots, like not parrots, but like parakeets. I don't know. I don't
Okay.
mess with birds. They move too fast. They fly too quick. I could never. Turtles and a gecko. So that's our extent right now.
All right. So with your OT work, is that with the animals or is that like part of a separate program where the students can go to the farm or both?
So so coming into the school it was separate. There's no
Okay.
clinician in the school that is really working with the animals other than me at this point. They were going to a program at a path certified facility,
Okay.
and some of the clinicians would go and work with them there through, with the instructors
Mm-hmm.
guiding them,
Yep.
but none of them like have gone on for like an animal certification or anything like that. So, they're doing what they were taught, those basics in school. So now that I've kind of gone on further and I have that animal background being a past certified instructor, I've gone on to complete an animal assisted certificate through Houston College. And now I'm working through the Animal Assisted Association for Animal Assisted Intervention
Mm-hmm.
Professionals.
Yep.
So much to say to get my certification so that I have a more solid background. And I've been working mostly with the guinea pigs just because they're in the school, they're transportable, and the farm is kind of like far off, and my schedule is very tight. So it makes it kind of hard to get to the farm and do work
Mm-hmm.
with them. So that's like more of a event for me to plan out. The guinea pigs, the small animals are managed, I would say, by the transitions office, which are basically the transition coordinators and supervisors. They help the kids with like vocational skills
Okay.
and internships outside of the school and inside the school, actually. And then the farm is managed by the agricultural manager. So it's used for education purposes and vocational purposes as well. So
Okay.
I'm starting now to jump in on that.
Yeah. Well, it's like it's there, you know?
Yeah, why
You
not
just
use it?
gotta just stretch a little in that direction, right? So tell me a little bit about the certificate. I think we texted briefly as you were working on that. What knowledge did you gain through that program?
So the program that I took through Houston College was led by someone, I think he has a degree in English, but I think somehow he got into the animal field. Can't exactly tell you how he got in there anymore. But it was a great overall look at animal assisted therapy and also just animal assisted interventions in
Mm-hmm.
general. So it started with like the history of animals. It talks about how animals are looked at and viewed in different cultures and things like that. And then it talks about the guidelines, the laws, the regulations that are out there. The laws are very far and few right now for animal therapy, but there are those regulations and guidelines that you should be following if you want to be a good citizen. So that gave me like a good overview. And now I'm taking some courses through the AAAIP
Mm-hmm.
to get my certification because the college one was just a certificate.
Yep.
And I wanted something, I wanted to put something in my name there and make it worthwhile. So that's giving me a lot more background on like treating, how
Mm-hmm.
you could use the animal, and more so like the protocols on when and how to use the animal and like getting to know your animal. It gives you good guides on observing behavior with different people or with different toys, how they're interacting or how they're reacting to the snack that you're giving them. So all of those things, they give you like all those tools to kind of look over the animal's well-being.
Mm-hmm.
And then also um what else? Oh, they have more information about the different animal assisted interventions. Apparently now there's animal assisted coaching and there's animal related engagement, which is like the activities you do that are animal related when a child or just someone is not capable of being with an animal, for whatever reason it might be. So
Well,
it's
that
like those
makes me think
supplementals.
of I did an art project last week where I had printed out almost it would look like a coloring page of a goat
Yep.
in like grass or on a hill. And then we went around the farm and we collected different natural materials and they
Mhm.
glued those onto the paper to make the goat and the landscape 3D. So it
Yeah,
kind
I
of sound
saw that.
yeah, so it kind of sounds like that would be one of those
Yeah,
animal related what?
animal related engagement. So it's like
Engagement.
animal related engagement activities essentially should be I guess they just did it when it
AREA area.
yeah, I know. It probably would have been better with area instead of R.
Arr.
R, but
Too
yeah,
many.
so
We're gonna dive into the acronyms. Like,
I
oh dear.
know. I couldn't believe when I started this course, I'm like, there's more of them now. Like
Mm-hmm. It's
just
hard
these
enough just in the
three.
horse realm of things and like all of the
Yeah.
acronyms there and how much. Now, do you find that it's as muddy outside of the horse world? Because obviously with adaptive riding, therapeutic riding, hippotherapy, equine assisted services, like it's super muddy about what
Mm.
is what and who does what in the horse side of things. Is it as confusing in the rest of the animal realm?
I don't know if I can even speak to that because I don't know. I don't hear like our farm instructors going around saying they're providing therapy.
Okay.
So that's always a good thing. But I don't know if they have that background either where they know of
Gotcha.
all these different categories that there are. I don't know what their skill set is and what their background is. So
Right.
I know the agriculture manager, she was a trainer at a PATH certified
Okay.
facility. So she knows the horse world well. And that's how we got to that one stable with our
Hmm.
kids was through her.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but I don't really feel like I've had enough interaction with people about it yet.
Gotcha.
After completing my course through Houston College, I realized that we didn't have like those legal safeguards, like something that we could sign that says, "Hey, we're working with animals, blah blah blah, et cetera, et cetera." or like a background profile of the child coming in to
Mm-hmm.
know what their experiences were, how they acted around animals or reacted. So I actually went and made all of those. I made like a 5-page packet that had the release of liability,
Yeah.
what the animals were going to be used for, and parents could check off which type of intervention they wanted to be involved, and then also that profile form that would help us understand their previous interactions. And I know, like, when I first sent it to get approved, I sent it just for the therapist.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, "Oh, this is great. Let's digitize it and da da da." And I was like, "Well, it only covers the therapist though. Like I didn't include all of the interventions. It's
Right.
only animal assisted therapy that I wrote it for." So then they had me rewrite it so that it
Okay.
could include everyone. So I think, like, even, sorry, there's a bug. I think that even the leadership, that it's not, I guess it's not really their job to know those things anyway. That's what they have all of us for, to help
Right.
them navigate those kind of technical things. But same as any other non-animal therapy person. It's like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
this encompasses everything. It's like,
Yeah.
no, it's only for me.
We got to change
So
it if it's including other, yeah.
yes, if you would like it to cover more, I can modify
Yeah, you
it.
can add some check
So
boxes.
yeah.
Well, it sounds cool because it sounds like you're making your own niche out of resources that were there,
Mhm.
and creating that packet and that safeguards really reminds me, I'm working with a client right now, and the family is adopting a cat.
Mm.
And the child
Mhm.
is really interested in the barn cats at the stable, but he's not incredibly safe with
Mm.
them. And so I've been trying to coach the parents about some safety aspects that they're going to need to know when they bring this cat home, because he likes to see the animal react.
Mm.
And if the animal is sleeping, he's going to do whatever he can to get him to react. And
Oh
it's like
no.
you think that you're there and you think that you've got like a safe distance. And boy, it seems like no matter what we do, like he gets in there and he'll grab a tail or he'll grab a leg or he'll pinch an ear. And the barn cat is like, I said after one session, I was like, man, you got your therapy cat wings, because the cat doesn't react, which in some ways is like almost teaching him that it's okay to treat the cat that way. Like most cats are like, I'm not putting up with that. I'm either going to scratch you, bite you, or run away. And this cat's,
Yeah.
hi. I'm like, not what we're trying to teach him. So like that would be
No.
super important on a profile to when he's on the spectrum. So to put on a profile of likes to see animals react, you need to
Mm.
be super close, and you
Mm.
need to make sure that you're protecting that animal, because it's not necessarily we need to protect him, it's we need to protect the animal, because he's
Yeah.
really interested in seeing like what happens when. And
Mm.
like, okay, yeah, but that's not the way we want to treat our animals. So I
Yeah.
think that's really good information to collect, especially given that it's the same population of kids that are on the spectrum, of what is that previous experience? Was there a pet in the home, and how did that go over? Or has the kid always been interested in animals or terrified of animals?
Mhm.
Because I think you can see a little bit of everything. It was so cute. Love that
She just bit my finger.
spot.
That's why I went, you
Puppy teeth.
biting. Yes, puppy teeth. Yes, all her big teeth, or all her puppy teeth have come out, and now we're down to just the adult
Oh,
ones coming in. You're so good. You're so good.
so cute.
Mm, she's so cute.
So that transition from student to practitioner,
Mhm.
how was that?
It was very difficult. I felt really lost because I don't know if it's just the facility I went to, or maybe it just, I know my school didn't cover pediatrics thoroughly. It was mostly geared towards assisted living and nursing facilities.
Hmm.
So when I went in, it was a huge learning curve for me because I'm writing my notes like soap note form, and they're like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Soap notes." And they're like, "We don't do those."
Do you do
And
like
it's just,
quarterlies?
we do quarterlies, we do monthlies, but my boss, she's just like, your monthly can just be your most recent session note. You don't have to go and write some crazy thing. But the note writing is totally different. And I
Yep.
really struggled with learning that and understanding why so much was getting left out or whatever the case may be. Like it was more like get to the point and that's that. Whereas like with soap notes, you're writing like, oh, patient stated XYZ
Yep.
and I observed XYZ and caretaker stated XYZ and blah blah blah. And so it was very confusing to learn the system and the note writing right
Mhm.
away. And even quarterly notes, I'm over a year in now and I'm still getting feedback and edits and I'm sure I will for the rest of my life, but they're less and less and less now.
Yeah.
But it was just so overwhelming. So I started making like a feedback guide of all the emails that my boss would send me with like, here's what you wrote, here's what I suggest. And I started making like a Word document with all of her wording so that I
Mhm.
could just remember it and take it like, oh, I want to say this, but how did she want me to say this? And I would just go into my Word document and be like, oh, promoting. That's right. Promoting's the fancy word. So, yeah, so that was really, really, really hard was getting used to those notes because it wasn't the way I was taught in school and it was
Yeah.
you get so ingrained and a type A personality like me, I'm like, but this is what school taught me.
Mhm. Yeah,
And
each setting can be
also,
so unique in, like, how they want things documented that,
yeah, it
like
was really hard. It was the hardest thing. And then I'm trying to think of what else was challenging. I think that was the main thing. But then just like getting used to that population because it's all ends of the spectrum. We have one kid that just graduated, he's going to college.
Mhm.
I have another kid who got accepted to college, but then I have kids that are 21 with cognitive age of 7.
Right.
So you're dealing with this whole slew of different mindsets and different behaviors and that's the other thing, a lot of the kids there are behavioral, so they do hit or kick or whatever. That's how they communicate to you. So just learning and finding that way to manage your own emotions and understand what's happening and taking a step back and realizing like it's not you.
Mm.
This is just communication and then figuring out ways also to decompress when you get home.
Yeah.
It's a very emotionally heavy job
Yep.
and I love my kids to death. Like no matter what any of them did to me, I still love them. Like it's a special person that can just go back to work the next day.
Yeah.
So we
Well,
have a
and I
lot of great people there.
I think that, like you said, like being able to decompress at the end of the day and like I sometimes feel with therapy, it's such like a high or a low. Like you have a great day with your clients and you're like, the students did great today. Like I'm great. And it'll be like 2 days later and somebody's just having a horrible day and yeah, you got hit or you got kicked and you're like,
Mm,
I shouldn't even be doing this. Why am I doing this? Like sometimes I
yeah.
have those like really highs and lows. I'm like, oh God, that was just awful today. It's like
Yeah.
it's not it just is what it is. Is it a full moon? Like, let me
Yes,
check.
some days are full moons. Yeah.
Yes. Like,
But yeah,
okay.
you have to be someone that it can roll off because if you can't let things like that happen and go on and act like they didn't happen, then it's not the job for you.
Yeah.
And luckily for me, I had worked in similar facilities, so I knew what was to be expected, but it's still a shocker the first time you come back into a setting like that and you get adjusted to it and it's not even them hitting or kicking you but they also do it to themselves or they bite
Right.
themselves and that's the worst one. You feel so bad that it happened
Mm-hmm.
and you part of it is learning those behaviors and how to manage them or how to avoid them in your sessions.
Yeah.
What can I do to make my session successful? And you just have to know your kid and learn your kid.
Yeah, that kind of either seeing things start to escalate, I mean, like, oh, I need to back off, or it's just not going to happen. Like, I need to let it go. I need to let my goal go for today because it's not going to happen. Like, that kid's not
Yeah.
there, and I need to follow them and see what therapeutic moment I can make out of
Mhm.
what we're going to get. Yeah,
Yeah. And that's the
absolutely.
other hard thing for me coming in is the sharing space concept. Like
Okay.
being able to bill for sharing space and as rapport building, therapeutic rapport building. I was like, that doesn't make any sense, but it does in some ways. You're there with your time and
Mm-hmm.
you're building rapport, whether or not you're sitting there doing a activity or you're letting them swing on the swing and you're pushing them or you're standing with them at the trampoline or whatever. That one was a hard one for me to understand how, because like when you go to assisted living or nursing, if your client doesn't want to work with you, like you're not billing for that session, and you
Right.
can't just sit there and build rapport with them either. Because I remember in my acute care field work, my educator, we'd pop into a patient. If they said no, she's like, okay, bye. Let's go on to the next one. Like, and I'm like, but they want to talk.
Yeah,
She's
the
like, but we
psychosocial
can't.
piece. Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, but she's like, but we have our, quota
Non-billable
to
hours.
meet.
There's non-billable
Yeah.
hours.
We got to keep going. And I'm like, but he just wants to talk to someone. So it was definitely a challenge to understand that at first. So, but now I get it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think often we come with our like agenda. It's like I feel like I need to do, so that's my job, right? I'm here to do whatever thing that we've planned for the day. And then
Mhm.
just being able to feel confident enough to be like, that's not going to happen.
Mhm.
Okay, well, let's see what is going to happen. Like, I'm sure I can make
Yeah.
something meaningful out of this. I think that that can feel really hard, whether it's parents watching or if you have volunteers or interns with your session or your teachers, whoever's there, you're like, do they think I'm not doing anything?
Mhm.
And then
Yeah.
being able to come out and be like, no, this is what we did today. This is, Johnny had a hard day, but we were
Yeah.
able to, and kind of coming away with that. Johnny was able to take a couple deep breaths and now we're calmer. And so when Johnny goes back to class, he's gonna have a better day. There's that time on the trampoline or the swing or
Yeah.
petting the goats.
Yeah, I actually had that happen recently. All my kids, most of them have one-to-ones, so
Okay.
they come to the sessions with me. And there was a new one-to-one, and so not only do we log our own session notes, but then the
Mm-hmm.
one-to-ones are logging everything so the parents can see, because
Yep.
these kids come from California, Chicago, everywhere. And I was seeing his logs, and it was like, oh, student is was 25% engaged, because he was seeing that when the kid shut down on me, he was just not paying attention to me anymore, but he wasn't realizing the stuff I was doing in the background,
Yep.
like the shoulder squeezes and
Yep.
listening to music and sitting on the crash pad. So I had to take the time to explain to him, no, he was 100% engaged. It's just not in a we just weren't like functioning, we weren't
It
doing
wasn't a
some sort of.
social engagement, it was a sensory engagement.
Yeah, exactly. So I had to explain that to him, and then he understood it. I was like, non-engagement would be he bit his wrist and ran out of the classroom, and
That's what I
that's
was
the
thinking.
end
He
of it.
ran out of the room.
Yeah, like that's the end of it. Yeah, he's 50% engaged. We didn't finish the session, but if he's staying with me, and because he's a very anxious kid, so like it can
Yeah.
go south very quick.
Yep.
I was like, but if he's staying in the room and he's finding another solution and we're finding another tool or strategy that's working, he doesn't have to be sorting things and cleaning, and we can just be sharing space and sitting on the crash pad and trying to decompress together,
Yeah.
and that's 100% engaged. So I had to have that little discussion and explain it to him, and he got it over time.
Yeah. Well, I
But
think
I can see.
we see things through OTIs. Like no matter
Yep.
what, we see it through OTIs, and we're like, oh yeah, okay. So we were doing some deep pressure there. We were calming the central nervous system. We were getting ready for a higher level of engagement where maybe there was some reciprocal back and forth or a more functional activity, but we needed that time for
Mhm.
those sensory activities before, we're going to get that, or maybe it's later in the day when the teacher gets that. And yeah, to an aide or a parent, or sometimes they don't have that language, they don't have those eyes, and it's like it's really our job to translate it, just like you said, like you had to teach him to understand what you were doing. And I think it's the same with caregivers. It's like we need to be able to translate what's so intuitive to us as OTs
Mhm.
into something that they can see, because it just, yeah, it looks like playing, or it looks like we're not doing anything, or it's like, no, that was a therapeutic break. Like we took a
Mhm.
therapeutic break for 10 minutes because that's what everybody needed.
Mhm.
And those other eyes don't always see it that way.
Yeah, I've learned with that particular student. I mean, the second I open the door to the sensory gym, he runs the trampoline. And so, literally, I have found the most success I get with him is letting him jump for as long as he wants to,
Hmm.
not putting a timer on it. Just, okay, you want to jump for 10 minutes, 3 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever you
What does your
need.
body need?
is
Yeah.
going to help me be successful with helping you reach your goals.
Yeah.
I noticed when I took him away from those sensory things, because you have 30 minutes and you have these goals to meet and you're like, ah, but if you took him away from it, the success wasn't there. You'd get 5 minutes of engagement and he'd be like, I'm done. So he needs that jumping. So I
Yeah.
don't even mess with it now. I'm like, you jump your little heart out.
It's a need. It's not a want. It's not like a this would be fun. It's a like a need. Oh,
Yeah.
and I think
Yep.
when people can learn to see it that way, then it makes more sense.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I totally get
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Now, as you've made this transition, what mentoring or coaching have you had along the way? Because I know in our text the other night, you're like, I'm meeting with my DIR mentor. So,
Oh, yeah, I forgot. Yeah, I am doing the DIR. I'm working on that certificate. So I have her doing the mentoring with me because I was just having some challenges understanding what communication was looking like. Because to me, I thought I have great affect, I have all of this, I do this stuff, and it's just not clicking the way I thought it was. Not that I thought it was an easy thing to do,
hmm
but I thought that I had the basics of it.
Yep.
So, and like she'd watch my videos and I'm like, that's communication. She's like, that's like pre-communication. I'm like, it's communication. Communication is like pre-communication is communication. So like I'm really struggling like understanding what I'm supposed to be looking for.
When counting like those circles of communication, like I opened a circle, did they close it? Is that part
Mhm.
of what you're like working through?
Yeah. Well, that and like how to get to the next FEAS
Yep.
level.
Yep.
So those kind of things are challenging for me. But so I'm working with her. Yesterday was, or last week was my first session with her, and she was like, okay, I want you to go record 10 minutes. No, like, no, because when you do your certificate course, you can break it. Like, okay, we want a 5-minute video. It can be two
2.5.
scenes cut
Yep.
together or whatever. But she was like, I just want 10 minutes of
Raw.
complete raw, whatever
Yep.
you're doing. And so I have to review that with her. But I was like, oh, I hope this works. It's been hard for me though, because I'm using my cousin's kid who I only see like once, if
Gotcha.
that.
Yeah.
So I'm not using a student at my school because we're not comfortable letting me record and use it
Yes.
for purposes. So I barely know him, which they tell you, do not use someone you don't know for this course. And I'm like, well, don't really know him,
It's
but we're gonna
hard.
go for
Yeah.
it. So, and I still don't really know him that well. So I'm doing the DIR. I have that mentor, and then I had you, obviously, for my animal assisted. And
hmm
DIR, honestly, I found out through you. So, you were a mentor in that aspect as well. You're the reason why I went for my DIR, because I thought it was interesting. I thought I'd be good at it. I'm okay-ish at it, apparently.
It takes time. It definitely takes time because it's like it's a
Uh,
new paradigm of both the thinking about it, but then also actually the implementation, like you said, like, okay, I understand the FEAS levels, I understand what maybe I think it looks like, but then putting it into practice with different kids or a kid you don't know, when
yeah.
you don't have that rapport, right? Because it's
Mhm.
relationship based,
Yeah.
it
And then
is.
also just like while you're in the moment trying to think, how do I build this? That's the hardest part, because then I get stuck thinking about that and I lose everything that I had,
Yeah.
because I'm like, okay, we're doing great. We're doing great. How do I build it? And then the kid's like, bye. And I'm like, oh, I lost it.
I just said,
So,
I don't know if it was this morning or yesterday morning. My mornings sort of blur together with the baby, but he's almost 9 months old and he's playing with us on the bed. And I was like, look at all these circles of communication, like that like we're opening and he's closing, like this playful interaction back and forth. And I was like, this is so cool because we have clients that are 9, 10 years old that can't sustain
that
this
many
level.
circles.
Yes. It was
Mhm.
just a really cool like realization. The first thing, and they're like, look at this.
You have
It's
a
so
genius baby.
well, it's just so neat to see it develop organically
Yeah.
as opposed to like when we're working on it and
Mm.
how challenging it can be for some of our clients to be able to sustain that like self-regulation piece and then be able to have some shared attention on something and really
Mhm.
get that like twinkle and as he's like looking at us and laughing and he's pulling the curtain like over his face and then
Mhm.
he was like sticking his head like a peekaboo type of thing, but then he's laughing with it and it's like that that sparkle, and
Mhm.
that kind of joy that is coming from this very simple activity that we're doing, and how
Mhm.
hard sometimes we have to work at that um,
Mhm.
with some of the
Yeah.
kids that we're working at. So it's interesting that your mentor is taking you through just some raw footage. Okay, just give me what's actually happening,
Mhm.
and then
Yeah.
let's look at that.
Yeah, and of course, my time with you, I had 8 sessions with you, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like we were just focused on note writing and treatment planning and all of that. We weren't able to delve really into different kind of techniques and whatnot. So it was just you watching my raw footage and giving feedback. And I remember that one kid who said, "Let's talk about that one." I'm like, "Oh, let's not talk about that session."
Those are the
Well,
juicy ones, though, right?
let's move on to the next kid, okay? That was always funny. I tried to keep your mind busy so you wouldn't ask. And I was like, that's not, that didn't go that great.
Let's go
So
there, right?
Gina doesn't miss a thing.
We got to go through it, right?
So funny.
But I feel like that's the fun thing.
Do you want me to talk about my other mentors?
I do want you to talk about your other mentors.
Okay, so my other mentors. My biggest mentor right now is my boss. She's an amazing boss. She's really supportive. She's really great. She gives a ton of feedback and she's really guided me through the process of transitioning. And I just always say to her, I'm like, why do you want a new student? Like, why did you hire me? And she's like, this is how you learn. So she's really, really supportive and really great and really understanding of all of that.
Mm-hmm.
So she's taught me a lot. We just did my annual review and she was just like, you have had so much growth. She's like, we're still ironing out the progress notes. She's like, everything I tell you, like you work towards changing or fixing or whatever the case may be. So
Mm-hmm.
she's been really, really great in supporting me as a new practitioner. And I know there's not a lot of students out there that transition that get that experience.
Yeah.
So I'm really grateful that I have her to be supportive and be there for me.
I think that's a huge piece that's often missing in that transition from like a student role where you do, at least you have your professors as mentors, and then
Yeah.
into becoming a clinician. It's like, okay, you like go treat. So it's great
Yeah.
to hear that you have somebody who is with you
Mhm.
by your side, like giving you feedback, because I think we all benefit from that level of feedback, having somebody that's helping us, looking at what we're doing, because we all have room to grow. Like there's nobody treating out there that doesn't have room to grow or is gonna not gonna benefit from learning something new or interacting with another clinician. So I think that's was a great opportunity. And I think that's one of the things that you wanted from that job is you wanted to have a mentor that was gonna really be with you. It's great to hear that your boss is that person for you.
Yeah, she's really great.
That's awesome. When you started integrating animals, was that
Mhm.
outside of her expertise? Like, has she helped you with that as well, or is that kind of outside of her expertise and that's why you're going for the certificate and certification?
I can't say either way. She used to work at a facility that was very much animal based,
Okay.
but I don't know her experience working with the animals. I
Mm,
don't know if she was doing a lot of work with them. I don't believe so because I know that she comes and talks to me about it and about what I've been doing and we exchange ideas and that kind of thing. So I don't know how much she had knowledge wise about animal assisted before that because I know like it's not required at that facility that they use an animal in their session. It's
hmm
not like that. But the whole premise of the facility is nature and animal based education. So yeah, but I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, it's great to see that there's more inclusion of nature-based approaches, of including animals in and recognizing where it can benefit students, clients. people that
Mhm.
we work with. The more practitioners I talk to, both in the mental health side of things and in more of the schools and the residential, like hearing like it's becoming a thing.
Mhm. Slowly but surely.
Yes, but we are the pioneers, right? We are
Yes.
the leading the way there. What do you think is like a key skill to have when integrating animals into OT sessions?
Oh, creativity. Really figuring out what you can do more with it because I know like a lot of practitioners get stuck in the IEDL, ADL category. Oh, well, we're brushing her hair, we're doing this, and it's like ours. And I wanted to get out of that because there's just only so many times you can do a session like that, you know?
Hmm.
And so I've been exploring more. So, like with the guinea pigs, I created what I call Guinea Pig Adventureland. And
Okay.
it's basically a whole bunch of obstacles, and it works on fine motor skills because they can design the Adventureland however they want, put all the different obstacles wherever they want, maneuver them, and then work with the guinea pigs to see what they can do, what they can make them go over or through. And so it works on that. And then we also have like the bathing supplies for the guinea pigs. So we can work on a bath versus combing hair. And with horses, we do the brushing of the hair and the zippers and the snaps and all that on the blankets. So just figuring out new ways to utilize the tools that we have and incorporate the animals as our teammates,
Hmm.
because I feel like it's still very limited out there. Like I Googled and searched like ways to incorporate, and there's just no treatment ideas out there
Well, we are
for,
working on that. We
yeah.
are we are working on getting more resources out there for practitioners. Even the podcast, it helps people like by sharing your ideas like
Mhm.
Adventureland or things that we're doing in sessions, other people, it helps generate and spark those ideas. Yeah, because
Yeah.
same thing as we started looking for resources when we were working with animals or in the aquatic side of things, like for OT there wasn't a lot of resources for aquatic OT. And so we're like, okay, we're going to be that resource
Mm.
because it's like if we're looking, there are other people looking too. So with your Adventureland, now you showed me pictures, but tell us about the worksheets.
Oh, the worksheets. So those I came up with because I had a PowerPoint slide or a PowerPoint that I made because a lot of the teachers in the schools, they buy these pre-made PowerPoint things for educating in the
Hmm.
classroom and stuff. So it's like, oh, I can make one because I have some kids that have technology goals of manipulating objects on a smartboard or whatever the case may be.
Hmm.
So I made the PowerPoints in this mindset that I would use them as a supplement to the animal interaction. So I'd have the animal there, and then we talk about like what guinea pigs eat, and we could
Hmm.
go through and move the food. So like one of the pages has like carrots, hamburgers, chicken leg, and lettuce, and it's like move the foods that guinea pigs eat over
Uh-huh.
onto this side. So that was one of the concepts. And then what happened was I went to go use it and the smartboard wasn't working. And I'm like, there goes my session. So I ended up not only having the PowerPoints, but then I manipulated the PowerPoint so that they could also be laminated worksheets. And I created a whole book of different animal related worksheets, like on the guinea pigs, the horses. So I have the parts of the horse, obviously the classic, but then I also have one that's called Horses Are Just Like Us. They go to the dentist, and there's a side by side picture of the dentist for the horse and the dentist that we go to, and they go to the doctor. And so there's a picture of the horse getting the shot and the kid getting the shot. And then the review page is move the pictures of the dentist to this side. So
Okay.
it's a Velcro book that you can move. But then there's other pages where I have like two column, like one other one is like a goat and the person, and
Hmm.
then pictures of different food on the side with checkbox. And it's like with a marker, with a
Yep.
dry erase marker, check off which who's not which, but who eats this food.
Yep.
So we're going through working on our handwriting skills. There's tracing activities, there's mazes, the Velcro ones again, and there's also visual perceptual activities. I think I have one that you gave me where you have to find the word horse within all the incorrect words of
Hmm.
horse, and counting. So counting and graphing and
Yes.
shading. So I just made this huge workbook that I can carry with me. And it also works as just a supplement to any OT session. If I want to work on handwriting and I know my kid likes horses, let's talk about horses today and let's work in the horse workbook.
Yeah.
So it's come out to be a really great tool for me, and it's really fun and exciting to share with the kids and exciting to share with my team all the things that I've been creating. So it's been fun. And then I'm creating like an Excel file also of like different interventions that each specialty can do with
Hmm.
each different animal to help my colleagues also get started if they wanted to.
Yeah. I find those times that we are interacting with the animal, it's nice to have that supplement. Like I've been finding a lot with the sessions with our goats, like we'll do 20 minutes of an activity. So today we did goat chef. And so it was a 5-step sequence of putting everything together. We had some really nice heavy work of grating carrots. And so I was like, okay, there's a really good sensory piece of grating the carrots took time and attention, and it really required focus because it's a sharp, like it's a grater box. You got to watch what you're doing. And then mixing the food together had a sensory aspect. And so it was like I got some of my goals met there. And then we went and interacted with the animals, and we had to divide it up into the buckets. But then we transitioned, and then we went into some coping skills, and we did a card sort with the while we were in with the goats. And so the goats came over and they're like, oh, like, what are you doing? And it was a nice way to flow between the goals that we had while including some other types of activities. So I find then rather than just we're focused on the animal, it's like that whole piece. And it sounds like you have some of that too with like, we're going to design this, or we're going to put this, we're going to do this kind of preparatory activity. Then we're going to bring the animal in, or then we're going to have that animal be the active participant in the session. And
Yeah, and I've done the shaving the carrots too with the guinea pigs. And
mhm,
a few weeks ago I did horse cakes with another kid. So, again, the shaving the carrot, the smashing of the peppermint, the spreading of the molasses, and then the rice crisp or the rice cake, cutting that up. So it was a good snack prep activity
yeah.
slash, sensory. And then we went out and fed it to the horse and the donkey. So yeah, I've been doing those ones also. I
And
have
then
all
you
this
can do
stuff at
yum
my
yuck
desk.
with it. And so we have a sheet called yum yuck. And then
Ooh.
it's kind of the same, but they graph like, did the animal like it, or they didn't like it? And so we've done it out on nature hikes with the goats where we'll pick different native plants like onion grass. And did they like it? Yum yuck. And so we do a little bit of plant identification, but you could do that. And then we transition it for kids that have feeding and eating goals into their own personal yum yuck. And
That's a
so,
cute way to do it. Yeah, I did a handwriting activity with my one kid. We went and we fed the guinea pigs lettuce, carrots, and like three other things. I forgot. And then he had to remember what they did and didn't like, and he had to write a whole paragraph about what they did or did not like.
yeah.
But the yum yuck is cute for lower level. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a very simple, we've done it like pictures of things we know we'll find along the
Mm-hmm.
trail. And so it's like match visually, what's that visual percent?
Mm-hmm.
Match this maple leaf to a maple leaf in the environment. And then we're going to feed it, and you're either going to Velcro it to the yum or the yuck side.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I love that idea of having like a workbook. And I've been doing kind of something similar with our goat groups when we do our goat support groups of putting the protocols together and putting all the like the workbook that the participants in the goat group get.
Mm-hmm.
So that way it's like, okay, here's the protocol for running the group. Here's the workbook that the people get for their recovery journey or whatever that piece is. And then that's like a great resource. And we have all those things together. And it sounds like you're building that kind of same thing with your worksheets as well and having that workbook. It's like, okay, I can take it when I have the animals with me. I can use it just as a relational piece when I know that that's motivating for that kid, because sometimes the animals either they don't want to cooperate, they're just having a day. I had that with one of the horses recently. My horse handler just told me like he wouldn't come in. He just wouldn't come in. I couldn't catch him. Okay. Well, guess he was
Well.
having a day. It's always good to have that like, now what? Now what are we gonna
Yeah.
do?
And
So,
then it's been good for me also because I go with them sometimes to the horse barn and it's a 45-minute drive. So sometimes I can use that workbook as a prep activity and also cover an entire session in the van just with that workbook in preparation for working with the horses.
Yeah.
So it's been a pretty cool tool. Thank you for the smartboard not working, because I would have never made that book.
Well,
Uh,
sometimes, it's like in the moment it feels like, and then you're like, wait, this is for my benefit. Now I
mhm,
have this tool that is really very versatile. So
mhm.
as we get ready to wrap things up, I want to know, what is your favorite thing about OT?
Oh, my favorite thing about OT right now is my students. They are my favorite thing, most definitely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
It's good to be part of something that is bigger than ourselves.
Hmm.
And I think
Yeah.
it brings such value to our careers, to us as practitioners, and
Mhm.
being able to feel like, yeah, okay, this is beyond me. My impact is much bigger than
Yeah.
just what I'm doing here. What do you wish you had more of in your professional life?
I feel like I wish that I had more versatility in practice areas. Like it's really hard to have a full-time job in just one area and feel like you're missing out on other areas because assisted living and nursing, that was hard for me. It wasn't easy for me. I was really terrified because of the other precautions and contraindications. Like adults are so much more fragile than you think. And I remember just following my educator around being like, how do you know all of this? And so I had gotten a per diem job at a retirement center, and
Hmm.
my boss there was great too. But I remember him being like, okay, you're going to start next week. And I'm like, what about training? And he's like, how much time do you need? He's like, I can give you like a day. I'm like, I need a week. This is not my strong suit. And that's why I want this job, so that I can keep my knowledge fresh in it, because I don't know it very well.
Hmm.
And it just, I wish there was more ways of doing multiple specialties in within our specialty. It's just so hard. It's so hard to keep fresh in all of the areas. So I wish there was more ability, more ability to have that, flexibility and schedule and have the benefits of a job, and but be able to get all the experience. I don't know if
Yeah.
everyone is like me and wants all the experience, but I want all the experience.
I think that's one of the great things about OT is like y- there's just so much. And that's what I always said. I'm like, if I ever get burnt out and I just don't want to do kids anymore, it's great because I can go to a different specialty area and I'm still doing OT. And I think that's one of those things like, okay, there's always like there's another step, there's another area that I could go into that would be fresh. And
Mhm,
you'd be starting right at that novice level again and starting right kind of from scratch. I mean, yes, I learned it in school, but like you said, it's if you're not doing it, you don't stay fresh with it. And I
mhm,
think we just had the discussion with our OTA students as we were closing out the semester. I said, in peds and mental health, there's rarely a wrong answer. If you can justify it with some clinical reasoning, you have a pretty
mhm.
good chance of getting it right. But when you get to FISDIS and like long term, like there is a clear right and wrong. This is a precaution and you need to know it. This is a contraindication and it is wrong. It is a right or a
Mhm.
wrong. It can be much more concrete than I feel
Yeah,
like with peds. It's like, well, okay, maybe I wouldn't have done it that way, but yeah,
you're
I could
alive.
yeah, well, and I could see like because for my practical final for peds, I used to give like a box of three different tools, and then they had a case study, and so they had to pick out of those tools, activities, whatever, what they would use and then explain. And I had an idea of out of the three, this one is probably the best choice to meet that goal that's in the case study. But every now and then somebody would come up and they would pick something completely different. But if they had really good clinical reasoning about why they would do it that way, I'd be like, yeah, like they really thought it through. They had good clinical reasoning. I could see how it would work. I had never thought of that, but absolutely.
Mhm.
And it's like in long-term care, that is just, yeah, you can't clinical reason your way out of like thin liquids.
Yeah, it's so black and white. And there's just so much. It's so crazy. And even shadowing the COTA that was already there. She was doing range of motion exercise. So, and she's going through it so fast. She's like, I would review your range of motion. And I'm like, and, and she had her, what's it called, productivity to make. So, of
Yep.
course, she was hustling and bustling. And I was like, I need to take notes. Like, this is so much. So, and they were all like, oh, you do a good job, blah, blah, blah. But it's just, you still are insecure when you're not in that setting.
Yeah.
So, but yeah.
I think that's how a lot of clinicians feel as they move into a more unique practice setting, incorporating animals or into aquatics. And it's like if you don't have that mentor, if you don't have that background, it can be hard to find that kind of confidence to
Mm-hmm.
put yourself out there, or it might be something that you're passionate about, but it's like, where do I even start?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's great that you've utilized so many resources from certificates to mentors to making workbooks and like bringing that all together into a really unique position in a residential school setting. So it's like you created something out of your passions that's benefiting the students so much, that is actually benefiting the facility and the other clinicians from the intake paperwork and stuff. And like, I feel really proud of you from working with
Mm-hmm.
you as a student to now seeing and hearing about what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So I think
Thank you.
this has been a great kind of update
Mm-hmm.
and way to catch up. So, anything else you would like to tell our listeners before we wrap up today?
Hey, animal assisted therapy is great, and we need more people doing it, and we need more people that can explain it. Because people look at us like, that was what? And getting more creative with things. We just need more minds in the game.
Awesome. I
Yeah.
think that's a perfect place to end for today.
Yes.
All right. Thank you for your
Thank
time.
you.
All
Yeah,
right.
thank you.